these escalators are not the only ones that needed repairs. Metro says it plans to replace 94 escalators over the next 7 years. Reporting from the White House, Shefali Kapadia, ATV News. In total, the walk raised nearly $800,000 in donations. All the money will support the HIV and AIDS programs of Whitman Walker. After discussing the impending fiscal cliff and concerns over budget changes, Carney addressed the U.S. position on the conflict in Syria. It's been 3 years after the BP oil spill, and many are still frustrated by the lack of legislation passed on offshore drilling. Students here and at 19 other universities across the country are doing their part to have their voices heard. Gas prices have skyrocketed recently, due in part to conflict in the Middle East. Prices are highest along the west coast of the United States and in Alaska and Hawaii. Sources estimate that the national average is about $3.60 per gallon. The comment period for the proposed regulations ended on November 13th. The Department of Consumer and Regulatory Affairs will take these suggestions into consideration before coming to a final conclusion. Reporting for American University, I'm Shefali Kapadia. Students gathered here outside the K Spiritual Life Center for a candlelight vigil and a moment of silence, honoring the victims of sexual violence. In the past election in 2008, we saw a really huge role of media, especially social media. The 26th annual AIDS Walk was not just for walkers. Some were running, some were dancing, and some were cheering on friends for moral support. But one thing they all had in common: to promote awareness, raise money, and support research for HIV and AIDS.
We're going to go out there and run 3.2 miles in hopefully a reasonable amount of time.
Participants gathered in downtown D.C. bright and early Saturday morning. Speakers and performers took the stage to warm up the crowd. After opening remarks and dancing, the 5K run kicked off from Freedom Plaza, followed by the walk. Whitman Walker Health organizes the annual AIDS Walk. This nonprofit provides health care to those affected by HIV and AIDS.
Even though it's only on one day, it's a year-round effort because we recruit a lot of universities and companies and things like that to help us raise money all year long.
More than 5,000 people participated in the AIDS Walk. Many walkers had their own personal reasons for attending the event.
I've had family, friends that have been impacted that I've lost to it.
Well, my mother, she passed away in 1995. She was directly affected by the epidemic.
It is estimated that 3% of adults in D.C. are known to have HIV, and an additional 3% are infected but don't know it.
In D.C. just 2 years ago, we had more than 200 people die of AIDS and more than 800 new HIV diagnoses. And there's really no good reason for either of those numbers to be that high.
In total, the walk raised nearly $800,000 in donations. All the money will support the HIV and AIDS programs of Whitman Walker. For American University, I'm Shefali Kapadia. Just 3 weeks after the presidential election, the opponents are already making plans to get together. Governor Mitt Romney visited the White House Thursday to enjoy a private lunch with President Barack Obama.
Any chance your briefing might be interrupted by a joint appearance?
No.
Meanwhile, Press Secretary Jay Carney addressed questions from the press on the upcoming changes to the budget. With a set of laws set to expire at the end of the year, tax hikes and spending cuts are possible in early 2013. The U.S. government is facing what is known as the fiscal cliff.
You cannot get the kind of revenue that you need simply from capping deductions or closing loopholes without taxing the heck out of the middle class.
Carney ensured that middle-class families will not face tax hikes. Revenue will instead come from tax increases to the wealthiest Americans.
The president will not sign any legislation that extends the Bush-era tax cuts for top earners in this country.
After discussing the impending fiscal cliff and concerns over budget changes, Carney addressed the U.S. position on the conflict in Syria.
Our position on assistance to the Syrian opposition has not changed, and the United States remains committed to providing humanitarian assistance to the Syrian people and providing non-lethal equipment and training to unarmed, civilian-led opposition groups. We have not provided any support to the armed opposition.
During the briefing, Carney also touched on continuing relief efforts for Hurricane Sandy and the president's visit to Pennsylvania on Friday. Reporting from the White House, Shefali Kapadia, ATV News.